Have you ever wondered why certain moments in your life feel like they are standing on the edge of something bigger than you can see? Why doors you never knocked on begin to creak open? Why conversations seem divinely timed? Why a name or a face keeps returning to your mind? I want you to listen closely, because what I am about to say may change how you understand the season you are living in right now. God is not random. Heaven does not act by accident. And right now, God is preparing to send someone into your life who will change your future in ways you never imagined. There are moments when God answers prayer, not with a miracle that falls from the sky, but with a person who walks through the door. Many people pray for provision, yet they overlook the instrument God chooses to use. They ask for blessing, but they fail to recognize that sometimes blessing comes wearing shoes, speaking a human voice, carrying influence, resources, and opportunity. God has always worked through people. He used a widow with a jar of oil. He used a shepherd boy with a sling. He used fishermen with empty nets. And he still uses people today. Some of you have been faithful in the shadows. You have prayed when no one saw. You have trusted God when the numbers didn't add up. You have obeyed when it cost you comfort. You have given when you had little left to give. And heaven has taken note. God is not blind to your tears. He has not ignored your patience. He has not forgotten your obedience. When God sees a heart that can be trusted, He prepares provision that can sustain. Let me tell you something important. Wealth in God's hands is not about greed or pride. It is about assignment. God raises people with resources for a reason. He places influence in hands that can open doors for others. And when God aligns a faithful heart with a prepared helper, lives are changed. Sometimes the breakthrough you are praying for will not come as money falling into your lap, but as a relationship that shifts your entire direction. Think about the story of Ruth. She was a widow, a foreigner, overlooked by society, gathering leftovers just to survive. She did not chase wealth. She chased faithfulness. And while she was busy doing what was right, God guided her steps into a field owned by a man of great wealth. She didn't know that one ordinary day of obedience would connect her to a destiny that would echo through generations. What she thought was survival was actually preparation. You may feel like you are just getting by. You may feel like you are doing small, unnoticed things. But God often hides great connections inside ordinary moments. One conversation, one introduction, one unexpected meeting, one person who sees your integrity, your diligence, your heart. And suddenly, what you could not accomplish alone becomes possible. I want you to understand this clearly. God is not sending someone wealthy into your life just to impress you, but to bless through you. When God brings provision, He also brings responsibility. When He connects you to influence, He expects humility. When He opens doors, He watches how you walk through them. That is why He waits. That is why timing matters. That is why preparation is more important than speed. Some of you have been frustrated asking God, why not now? But God has been asking, are you ready? Ready to steward what you didn't earn? Ready to stay grounded when favor increases? Ready to remain generous when help arrives? Ready to give God the glory instead of claiming it for yourself? God never releases provision before He prepares character. There are people listening who have felt a stirring in their spirit. You sense that change is near. You can't explain it, but something feels aligned. Old doors are closing. New paths are appearing, and you feel both excited and afraid. That is often how divine movement feels. Faith and fear standing in the same room. But hear this, when God orchestrates a connection, no human can block it. When God assigns someone to your life, distance cannot stop it, delay cannot cancel it, and doubt cannot destroy it. Do not despise the waiting. Do not compromise in the meantime. Stay honest. Stay prayerful. Stay faithful in the little things. Because the person God sends will recognize what heaven has already refined in you. They will not just see your need, they will see your potential. They will not just offer help, they will open pathways, and through that connection, God will be glorified. But let me caution you, not every wealthy person is sent by God. Discernment matters. God's provision never pulls you away from His truth. It never asks you to sacrifice your integrity. It never demands you abandon your faith. When God sends someone, peace accompanies the connection. Alignment confirms it, and the fruit brings life, not confusion. You are not forgotten. You are not late. You are not behind. Heaven is arranging things you cannot see yet. God is positioning hearts, aligning schedules, opening eyes, and preparing resources. What feels like delay is often divine coordination. And when the moment arrives, you will look back and understand why it had to happen this way. So lift your head, strengthen your faith, watch how you speak, how you act, how you walk. Because God often brings increase to those who are already walking as if they can be trusted with it. Stay humble, stay thankful, stay expectant. God is sending help. God is sending provision. God is sending someone who carries what you need for the next chapter. And when that moment comes, remember this: it was not luck. It was not chance. It was not coincidence. It was God, faithful as always, answering prayer in His perfect way and perfect time. Many people spend their lives waiting for God to do something dramatic, something sudden, something unmistakable that will instantly change everything. They look toward the sky expecting provision to fall, a miracle to appear without warning, a breakthrough that needs no explanation. Yet throughout history, God has rarely worked that way. Again and again, He has chosen a quieter path, a more personal method. He answers prayers not only with power, but with people. He sends help wrapped in human form, carrying wisdom, opportunity, resources, and timing that no miracle alone could accomplish. From the earliest pages of Scripture, this pattern is clear. When a nation was starving, God sent Joseph ahead with authority and provision. When a prophet was hiding in fear, God sent a widow with a meal. When the world needed salvation, God sent a Savior born among people, walking dusty roads, touching lives one by one. God understands something we often forget: transformation happens best through relationship. A miracle may change a moment, but a person can change a direction. Many pray for open doors without realizing that doors usually open because someone turns the handle. Someone notices, someone recommends, someone invites, someone believes. That is why divine connections matter. God places individuals at the right place, at the right time, with the right heart to become the answer someone else has been praying for. And sometimes, without even realizing it, you are standing on the other side of someone else's prayer. This is why waiting seasons feel so confusing. You may think nothing is happening, but God is arranging people, aligning paths, softening hearts, and preparing conversations. While you pray for provision, God is preparing a helper. While you ask for direction, God is shaping a guide. While you cry out for favor, God is positioning someone who carries it. Heaven is never idle, even when life feels still. There are moments when one conversation accomplishes what years of effort could not. One introduction opens doors you could never push open alone. One relationship changes how you see yourself, what you believe is possible, and where you are able to go next. That is not coincidence. That is design. God uses people to remind us that we are not meant to walk alone, that His grace often flows through community rather than isolation. But this truth also requires humility. If God answered every prayer with instant miracles, we would never need each other. Pride would grow, independence would replace faith, and gratitude would fade. By using people, God teaches us dependence, patience, and discernment. He teaches us to recognize His hand not only in the extraordinary, but in the ordinary. A knock at the door, a phone call, a meeting that seems unplanned. a friendship that feels different from the start. Some people miss their answer because it doesn't look the way they expected. They wanted lightning, but God sent a voice. They wanted instant change, but God sent guidance. They wanted money, but God sent mentorship. And because they were looking for a miracle, they overlooked the messenger. God's answers are not always loud, but they are always intentional. This is why preparation matters. When God sends people into your life, how you respond determines what happens next. Character sustains what connection begins. Integrity protects what opportunity opens. Faithfulness proves you are ready for what God is doing behind the scenes, because when God chooses a person as the answer to prayer, He is also watching how that answer is received, how trust is handled, how gratitude is shown, how responsibility is carried, how hearts remain aligned with His purpose, while paths continue to unfold and doors begin to open quietly through human hands rather than thunder from heaven. There are seasons in life when obedience feels invisible and faithfulness feels unrewarded. You do the right thing, yet no one applauds. You remain honest, yet others seem to advance faster by cutting corners. You keep praying, giving, serving, trusting, while results appear distant and recognition feels absent. In these moments, it is easy to believe that nothing is happening, that your efforts are wasted, that God has forgotten where you are. But hidden seasons are never empty seasons. They are the places where God does His deepest work. Before God reveals anything publicly, He always develops something privately. Long before a door opens, a heart is being shaped. Long before a connection is revealed, character is being tested. Faithfulness in obscurity is not punishment, it is preparation. God uses quiet seasons to remove pride, strengthen trust, refine motives, and teach obedience that is not dependent on reward. What looks like delay is often divine discipline designed to protect you from what you are not yet ready to handle. Consider how often God chooses people who were unnoticed by the world. A shepherd alone with sheep, a servant in a foreign land, a widow gathering scraps. These individuals were not chasing platforms or recognition. They were simply faithful where they were planted. And in their consistency, God found hearts He could trust. Hidden faithfulness is powerful because it proves devotion without pressure, obedience without audience, trust without guarantee. In these unseen places, God is aligning you with people you have not met yet. While you are learning patience, someone else is being prepared to recognize it. While you are developing integrity, someone else is being positioned to value it. While you are building endurance, someone else is gaining the influence that will one day intersect with your life. Divine connections are rarely rushed because they must arrive when both sides are ready. Many people want elevation without preparation. They want influence without accountability. They want blessing without responsibility. But God's order is always the same. He tests in private what He will trust in public. He allows waiting so that when opportunity comes, you do not collapse under its weight. Faithfulness in the small things proves you can handle greater things without losing yourself. There is also protection in being hidden. If certain doors had opened earlier, they would have damaged your faith instead of strengthening it. If certain relationships had come too soon, they would have distracted you from God's voice. God withholds not to harm, but to guard. He delays not to deny, but to develop. Every season of obscurity carries lessons that cannot be learned on a stage or in abundance. Hidden seasons teach you to hear God without noise. They teach you to trust Him without evidence. They teach you to keep going when feelings fade and answers are slow. This kind of faith creates spiritual strength that cannot be shaken by success or broken by pressure. When God eventually brings you into the light, you carry depth, humility, and wisdom that cannot be fabricated. What you do when no one is watching matters more than what you do when everyone is. God watches the private choices, the quiet prayers, the unseen sacrifices. He sees how you treat people who cannot benefit you, how you respond when doors stay closed, how you remain faithful when it would be easier to quit. These moments shape the foundation upon which future connections will stand. When the time is right, God brings hidden faithfulness into visible alignment. He introduces you to the right people at the right moment, not because of strategy, but because of readiness. And when that divine connection appears, it does not feel forced or rushed. It feels natural, timely, and purposeful, as if every unseen step was leading there all along. Because in truth, it was shaping you quietly so that when the moment arrived, you would recognize it, walk into it, and carry it with a heart strong enough to sustain what faithfulness in the shadows had been preparing for all along. Many people misunderstand wealth because they see it only as a finish line rather than a responsibility. They believe abundance is proof of superiority, a sign that someone has arrived, a reward for effort alone. But in God's economy, wealth is never about status. It is about stewardship. It is not given to elevate pride, but to expand purpose. When God places resources in someone's hands, He is not applauding them, He is assigning them. Throughout history, whenever God increased someone, it was never merely for their comfort. Abraham was blessed so that he could become a blessing. Joseph was elevated so that nations could survive famine. Esther was positioned in a palace not for luxury, but for deliverance. Wealth in God's hands is always connected to impact. It carries responsibility, accountability, and expectation. God does not fund ego. He funds obedience. This is why not everyone who desires wealth is ready to receive it. Desire alone is not qualification. God looks for hearts that will not be altered by abundance, for minds that will remain humble when numbers grow, for spirits that will stay surrendered when options multiply. Wealth reveals what already exists within a person. It amplifies motives, exposes priorities, and tests devotion. That is why God is careful about who He entrusts with more. Many people assume wealth is proof of God's favor, but favor is not measured by possession. It is measured by alignment. Some are wealthy and far from God's will, while others have little yet walked closely with Him. When God assigns wealth, it comes with clarity of purpose. There is an inner knowing that what has been placed in your hands does not belong to you alone. It is meant to flow, to lift, to open doors for others who cannot open them themselves. This understanding changes how you view opportunity. You stop asking only what you can gain and begin asking what you are called to carry. You stop seeing money as security and start seeing it as seed. You become careful, not because you fear loss, but because you respect assignment. Wealth without purpose leads to emptiness, but wealth with calling creates fulfillment that comfort alone can never provide. God often connects people of faith with people of resources because He knows provision moves fastest when obedience and ability meet. One carries vision, the other carries supply. One carries faith, the other carries access. When these align under God's direction, extraordinary things happen. Communities change. Families are restored. Doors open that were once sealed shut. This is not coincidence, it is divine strategy. But assignment also requires restraint. Not every opportunity is yours to take. Not every investment is yours to pursue. When God assigns wealth, He also assigns discernment. He teaches you when to say yes and when to walk away. He teaches you to listen before acting, to pray before deciding, to give before storing. Wealth that is directed by God is protected by wisdom. This is why God often develops hearts long before He releases resources. He teaches generosity in seasons of lack so that abundance does not corrupt. He teaches gratitude in simplicity so that increase does not numb the soul. He teaches obedience without reward so that reward does not replace obedience. When these lessons are learned, wealth becomes a tool rather than a temptation. When you understand that wealth is an assignment, comparison loses its power. You stop measuring your journey against others and start focusing on your responsibility. You stop envying what someone else carries and begin preparing for what God intends to place in your hands. And when increase comes, you receive it not with pride, but with reverence, knowing that God has trusted you with something that must be handled carefully, prayerfully, and faithfully, because what He assigns is never meant to end with you, but to move through you for purposes far greater than personal comfort or recognition. There is a reason God often seems silent just before a breakthrough. It is not because He has stepped away, but because He is doing a deeper work than words could accomplish. Many people ask for provision without realizing that God first prepares the person who will carry it. Character is the container, and if the container is weak, what is poured in will be wasted or spilled. That is why God never rushes what must be built slowly. Before God releases increase, He examines the foundation. He watches how you handle disappointment, how you respond to delay, how you treat people when you have no advantage to gain. He observes your integrity when compromise would be easier, your humility when pride would feel justified, your faith when evidence is absent. These moments are not small in God's eyes. They are indicators of readiness. Provision magnifies whatever already exists in the heart. If impatience lives there, increase will amplify it. If pride hides beneath the surface, success will expose it. If insecurity remains unresolved, opportunity will intensify it. God is not withholding to be unkind. He is withholding to protect you from being elevated beyond your emotional and spiritual capacity. Preparation is an act of mercy. Many people want what God promises but resist the process that makes it sustainable. They pray for open doors but avoid the discipline that keeps them standing once inside. They desire influence but avoid accountability. They long for abundance but neglect obedience in the small things. God's order never changes. He shapes the heart before He fills the hands. This shaping often happens through pressure. Waiting stretches patience. Delay tests trust. Rejection reveals identity. In these seasons, God removes what cannot go forward. He exposes motives that are mixed. He breaks reliance on human approval. He builds resilience that will be needed when responsibility increases. What feels like breaking is often strengthening taking place beneath the surface. God also prepares you by teaching dependence. Before provision arrives, He teaches you to trust Him without it. He trains you to obey without reward. He shows you that your worth is not tied to what you have, but to who you are in Him. This prevents future success from becoming your source. When God finally releases provision, it enhances your life rather than defining it. Character preparation also involves learning restraint. Knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Knowing when to move and when to wait. Knowing when to accept help and when to stand alone. These lessons protect you from impulsive decisions that could damage what God is building. Wisdom is formed in moments where patience is chosen over speed. This is why some blessings seem delayed while others arrive quickly. The size of the blessing often determines the length of preparation. God does not prepare everyone the same way because not everyone is called to carry the same weight. Greater responsibility requires deeper roots. Greater influence demands greater humility. Greater provision requires stronger alignment. When preparation is complete, provision no longer becomes a threat. It becomes a tool. You no longer chase it. It comes aligned with your values and purpose. You are no longer overwhelmed by it. You steward it with clarity and peace. What once might have distracted you now serves what God has established in you. If you find yourself in a season where progress feels slow and answers feel distant, do not assume God has forgotten you. He may be refining what needs to be strong before what you are praying for can safely arrive. Every delay is doing something in you that immediate provision could never accomplish. And when the moment comes, you will discover that what God built in you during the waiting was just as valuable as what He eventually placed in your hands. Because without that inner preparation, outer provision would never have been able to remain, grow, or fulfill its purpose in your life. There are moments when a connection enters your life and everything within you recognizes it as different. There is no confusion, no inner resistance, no pressure to compromise who you are. Instead, there is a quiet sense of alignment, as though something long prepared has finally met its appointed time. This is how divine connections often arrive, not with noise, but with peace. God does not lead through chaos. When He orchestrates relationships, they carry clarity and purpose rather than turmoil and fear. Not every opportunity is sent by God, even if it looks impressive. Not every open door is meant to be walked through, even if it promises advantage. Discernment becomes essential when favor increases. God's connections never require you to abandon your values to gain access. They do not pull you away from truth or pressure you into haste. When God sends someone into your life, alignment follows naturally, not forcefully. Divine connections come with responsibility because influence always does. When God aligns two lives, it is never accidental. Each person carries something the other needs, whether wisdom, access, faith, encouragement, or provision. The purpose is not dominance, but partnership. God does not connect people to create dependency, but to create growth. Healthy divine connections strengthen both sides and point both hearts back toward God rather than toward each other as the source. With responsibility comes stewardship. How you handle a divine connection determines its longevity. Gratitude protects it. Humility sustains it. Integrity honors it. When God opens a door through someone, He watches how you walk through it. He observes whether you remain teachable, whether you listen more than you speak, whether you protect trust rather than exploit access. Favor mismanaged quickly turns into loss. Peace is one of the clearest confirmations of God's hand. Even when the connection challenges you, it does not destabilize you. Even when growth is required, it does not compromise you. God's relationships stretch without breaking, correct without condemning, and strengthen without controlling. They invite you to become more of who God has called you to be, not less. Divine connections also carry timing. They often appear when you are no longer desperate for them, when you have learned to trust God even if nothing changes, when your identity is no longer tied to outcome. At that point, connection becomes addition, not replacement. It enhances your calling instead of redefining it. This timing protects you from idolizing people instead of honoring God. Responsibility in divine connections also includes discernment about boundaries. Not every detail must be shared. Not every opportunity must be accepted. God-given relationships thrive on wisdom, not overexposure. Trust grows gradually and is sustained through mutual respect. When boundaries are honored, purpose remains clear and peace remains intact. As God brings people into your life, He is also teaching you how to walk with them. Collaboration requires patience. Partnership requires listening. Growth requires flexibility. God uses relationships to shape character as much as to provide opportunity. Through divine connections, He reveals areas that need maturity, healing, and surrender. When responsibility is embraced, divine connections bear lasting fruit. They do not burn bright and fade quickly. They grow steadily, deepening over time. They withstand misunderstanding and pressure because they were not built on convenience, but on calling. God honors relationships that honor Him. If a connection leads you closer to truth, strengthens your faith, sharpens your character, and expands your capacity to serve, it carries God's fingerprint. These relationships do not exist merely for personal gain. They exist to fulfill assignments larger than any one individual. And when they are stewarded with humility and wisdom, they become instruments through which God's purpose flows, not only into your life, but into the lives of many others who will be impacted through obedience, alignment, and responsibility, walking together under His direction and guidance rather than personal ambition or temporary desire. As you reflect on everything you have heard, understand this truth clearly and without hesitation. God has not been working against you, and He has not been ignoring your prayers. Every delay, every closed door, every season of silence has carried intention. Heaven has been active even when life felt still. What you thought was waiting was actually preparation, alignment, and protection unfolding beyond what you could see. God's ways are higher than urgency. He is not rushed by pressure or moved by panic. He operates with precision, purpose, and perfect timing. When He prepares provision, He prepares people. When He prepares connection, He prepares character. Nothing is wasted in His hands. Every step, every test, every quiet act of faith has been shaping you for what is coming next. The truth is, God does not just bless randomly. He blesses responsibly. He entrusts resources to hearts that will honor Him. He opens doors for those who will walk through them with humility. He aligns people not merely for comfort, but for calling. When someone enters your life carrying influence, access, or provision, it is not meant to replace God, but to reflect His faithfulness through human hands. You are not meant to chase wealth, connections, or opportunity. You are meant to walk in obedience, integrity, and trust. When you do, God brings what you need to you in ways that preserve your faith and protect your purpose. He knows what would harm you if it came too soon. He knows what would distract you if it arrived without preparation. His timing is not delay. It is wisdom. Stay faithful where you are. Guard your heart. Refuse to compromise your values for temporary gain. Remain prayerful, discerning, and grounded. The connections God sends will not require you to become someone else. They will recognize who you already are becoming. They will align with the work God has been doing in you when no one else was watching. And when that moment arrives, when the door opens, when the relationship forms, when help comes through unexpected hands, remember where it came from. It was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was not human strategy alone. It was God honoring faithfulness, rewarding patience, and fulfilling purpose in His way. Do not fear what is coming. Do not doubt the process you have walked through. What God brings into your life next will not overwhelm you, because He has already strengthened you. What He releases will not corrupt you, because He has already refined you. What He entrusts to you will not replace Him, because you have learned to depend on Him first. Lift your eyes with expectation, but keep your feet planted in humility. God is faithful. God is intentional. God is always on time. And the same God who carried you through hidden seasons is the God who will guide you through visible ones, ensuring that every connection, every provision, and every open door serves a purpose greater than comfort, greater than success, and greater than self, all working together to reveal His glory through a life surrendered, prepared, and willing to walk forward in trust.